It's not only about the academic discussion or the intellectual discussion, but it's very much a sensory experience. So you're in the space, you're literally being bombarded in every way, sound, smell, sight. So it's a very physical experience. And I think in a digital age, it is, as a viewer, it's very nice to be in an environment that completely engulfs you and is a physical sensory experience of photography.
I use the term alternative realities because, as you could see in Unbound, the topics, the theme are really different, but the main thing, what relates all the works, is the fact that each of them, they want to present and to offer to the visitor a way to see reality differently.
A lot of young photographers are exploring form in photography. They've either gone back to traditional methods or incorporated photography and sculpture. But more recently, that search for form has gone into bigger and bigger and bigger sizes, and also more crossovers with other art forms. So photography is used as a small part in an installation or in a digital piece or in a sculptural piece. And we really wanted to provide a proper platform for those developments because it didn't exist. And I think Unseen, with its focus on the latest developments of contemporary photography, is the place where you should showcase projects like that.
My work revolves around the research into technical reproduction processes, with an emphasis on the process, and try to deconstruct the constructions behind photography and our visual consumption. And here at Unbound, I'm showing RGB birds, and I made a 16mm film installation where I filmed 3 birds and made an installation in which the film is passed through 3 different projectors, and in the projection it comes together and all these colors, the red, the green and the blue, start to merge. I think for the process of this particular work, it was one of the best studio days I think I've had so far. I had 3 birds in the studio, 1 professional bird handler. It was the first time working with live animals, of course. Kodak and Fujifilm, they used birds to sell or to promote the colors of their particular film. And that's why I used birds for this video. In my artistic process itself, it's a lot of trial and error. This installation that I made, for instance, took us a year to develop because it's not easy to make a 16mm film installation that works in this manner. I think I sort of work within the intersection of being an artist and at the same time being this nutty professor who is just working with chemicals for the silkscreen processes, for instance.
There's like this urge in me to transform the audience and to make a difference, and by only showing art you are very limited. So only photography was not enough, and that's why I add installation, video, VR, but still it wasn't enough for me. So by combining it with rituals where I do these little exercises with touch, I really can make a difference in their emotions and their experience. I took my installation of graduation and then also performed the ritual, so it keeps on developing. So what I do is very low-key, touch-based exercises. The audience is blindfolded and you're sitting in a circle with people you don't know, and I ask them with music, I guide them and I say, spread your hands, and then they have to search each other's hands, and I ask to discover each other's hands in a sensual way. Already with a simple exercise like this, you can teach people how to feel another body without your judgmental sense. You can only work with what you feel.
As your higher self, I demand you to give as much as you can from yourself to this world.
So every picture is a physical set. Nothing is photoshopped. This is a wall made with colored moss. This is an installation with paint, and the girl is body painted. So everything is handmade and very detailed and physical. I chose the color purple because purple is, for me, the combination of female and male energy. For me, every person has female and male energy, and when you're in balance, you have both in you, and also it stands for transformation, creativity, a lot of symbolism in purple.
So I'm really diving into photographic archives that I kind of try to find all over the places and kind of try to trace my existence back then. I come from Poland. In the 90s I was very much involved, during my youth in the subculture of hooliganism. So I spent approximately, 6-7 years traveling around Poland and participating in lots of violent, events at the football matches. And during that time, I really experienced lots of extreme moments.
Starcia. Policja pewien czas w różnych sektorach wybuchały starcia. Policja interweniowała.
For the Unbound, I prepare a installation, which is like a cage. The cage kind of bear the marks of the performance. And then I started adding more elements to it, like the photographic archive. So the idea is almost like the memory of these events back then are incomplete, they are somehow consume or glitch a bit, From all these elements, all these objects, and fragments, I'm building something that is completely new. When we experience violence, we kind of lose part of ourselves. So I think for me, each work almost functions as a kind of reconstruction of my own identity.
They are really trying to understand, and what we can see in the selection, we can see different types of language. I think it's quite interesting. We have for the past 10 years new things that appeared, no new possibilities, 3D sculptures, technology.
And I think it's important to be inspired by each other, and that's why I think it's important to have a space like Unbound, is because young artists come here and they see these ideas, they think about it, maybe they incorporate it into their own artistic practice. So it's a system of stepping stones that jumps from one artist to the other, perhaps.
I see my work as a storyteller. Have works, have artists, and I try to not to invent, but to create a narration between them. And yes, I think it's the main thing.
This work presenting nowadays the worldwide crisis, such as the oil and gas crisis, also the Ukrainian war, and also the Syria and Palestine. I'm using the 3D technology to bring the physical substance to the virtual space. In my artwork, the most important subject is the daily object produced in a contemporary world. In 3D program, actually it has a lot of connection to the photograph, calculating the light path, also the indexical relationship between the physical object and the digital object. I thought this generated photograph is the future of the photograph history, I think. I thought this is the very space of the imagination. There are a lot of possibilities and a lot of ways to combining all different materials like painting and sculpture and photograph, also video, inside this one media using this virtual system.
I've always believed in the future of the medium lies in its diversity and its multiplicity and not existing as a monolithic form. And I feel like my practice largely sits from between shooting on 16mm film to film photography to something as new mode and future storytelling like VR. What I'm showing here is a new installation called the Moon Palace, which is really a totemic structure that calls to the spiritual, boundless, infinite powers of the divine feminine energy when contrasted against the actual violence that women from South Asia and in the global South and their bodies go through. It sort of interrogates what you as a viewer is made complicit to experience what that gaze is like, you know, both the patriarchal and the Brahmanical gaze that is cast upon bodies of South Asian women. I have a very activistic approach towards art. I feel that as important as it is for works to exist in a book form or in galleries, there also needs to be some level of ground change and activistic approach towards communities. You have to keep experimenting and innovating because we're living at a time where technology is moving fast and everything is changing, but at the same time you have to keep your stories relevant. Also, tell stories with impact. You know, tell stories that mean something. It's not about what you're telling, it's about why you're telling that story and why are you the most important person to tell that story.